listening to the Ropes and Riffs podcast with your host, John Kiernan.
Nancy and Kitty today joining us from the X-Bombers. How y'all doing today?
Great to be here, John.
Amazing.
Yeah, the only thing is that people don't know this is morning.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't do morning so well.
Only for you am I going to get up before noon.
That's what
Only
I'm
for
saying.
Ropes and Riffs are you doing a morning shift. I appreciate y'all.
That's legitimate.
And we were talking before we jumped on the air about just everything that you guys have done, all the different pieces you've done, which we're going to talk about. But first and foremost, for everyone watching and for everybody listening, go check out X-Bombers everywhere you can check out any videos of theirs, because their video, my God, the way they shoot, everything that they have is like crisp pro quality. And I just want to say, as like independent to independent, you guys are doing that the way it's got to be done. So I just wanted to applaud you for the excellent videos, everybody, because you guys are just crushing that part.
That means a ton. We put a lot of love into those videos. Everything from the costuming to the writing to the actual shooting and editing. I mean, we've shot things on Super 8 film. We've rented TV studios and brought in professional wrestlers. We've ran around the streets of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We've done some wild stuff in them. And we come from a visual, we love visual arts, love music videos. Like, they look awesome. And our favorite part of pro wrestling used to be when they would just go somewhere and shoot something. Like, no more like, oh, I'm backstage or whatever. It's like, nah, man, you go somewhere, you shoot something, whether it's like a fun video package, edited something together, or you just went somewhere and filmed it. Like all those Smoky Mountain, WCW, USWA. I mean, like all those things, they would just go somewhere. And I think our run and gun style is part MTV, part that, where you're like, let's get everything we can on frame and just on screen, all our best on screen. We just read the book, Make Your Own Damn Movie by Lloyd Kaufman. I don't know if you do Trauma.
Yep, I do. Absolutely. Toxic Avenger. Yes.
And so he's like, take every dime you have and put it on screen. And that's how we do it, is like, there's a lot of hook and crook that goes into an X-Bombers music video to make that happen. And thank you for mentioning that. It's like professional level like that, because it is what we're going for. And we have a background in it, but to do that stuff is just to make it happen and have it on frame there and have it on screen. And so anybody watching who watches it, please reach out. Like, we love talking videos and that. Our heart's on those things like it is on our records. So thank you, John.
Absolutely. And like, even look at, I keep trying to fix bad with worse. Like, to me, I saw like the other stuff, which we'll talk about, obviously the themes, the Jim Cornette stuff. And I'm like, oh, those are great. But then being able to see like what you guys are able to do from that capacity too, it's like, man, you're creating a story. And I think people appreciate that too. People appreciate like, hey, this band's going out of their way to just make an awesome video, a fun video. And you hear it all the time with creatives too, right? There are so many creatives that have made it onto large screens, onto movies, and just as far as the eye can see. And you hear them saying, I just started off not knowing what I'm doing, and then we just did what we thought was right, and all of a sudden here's this. And it's just like, it adds such a human feel, such a dynamic feel, and also such a feel to who you guys are as performers and as artists, which at the end of the day, that's what we all are.
Yeah, thanks again. That's awesome. So that particular song, which was a wild sort of shoot.
Yeah, the thing is, music videos can cost a ton of money if you let them.
Yeah.
But you know what's free is creativity and your friends.
And story. Like,
story,
we have
narrative.
a saying, narrative is free.
Narrative is free, yeah.
Narrative is causal. One thing leads to another. Somebody wants something gets in the way of them getting that thing. Chaos ensues, action heats up. And so that video is wild because it's an uninterrupted A block. If you notice, the performance and the story are all in one. So we don't have hides and stuff. Like, it's got to move forward. Two, if you watch it, that is legitimately shot in the back of a 1999 Plymouth Voyager minivan. And when we're about to be done, Kitty, what happened?
It caught on fire.
Are you serious?
It caught on fire. Yes, we were almost done shooting, and of course, like, the engine overheated and smoke was coming out, and we were like, "Just keep driving, just go, let's finish this."
Yeah, it would idle. It couldn't get over like 15. I'm like, we need these, and so it was by the time everybody was kind of out of it. But yeah, I mean, because it's wild, because you don't know where it's going to go and why. and it has a satisfying conclusion to it. I mean, that's the thing too. Like we like to punctuate our narratives. They end at the end, but maybe it asks a new question or something going on. I think there's a lot of like look at the camera and like shrug, leaving things open. I think we're in this weird postmodern storytelling world where things like causality and what people want and, you know, logical coherence of a storyline are just out the window. So, you know, if we can do so in the back of a 99 Plymouth Voyager that's on a little bit of fire, you know, we're contributing to the right thing.
That's crazy though too when you think about it, because if you're talking about like the creation of a video like that, you know, you guys have this story, you have everything that you're putting into it, you have your fans who are supporting you with it, like you see at the end of the video, you have the people come out, and it's all real cool. And then obviously the car lights on fire, like that's, you know, obviously we're gonna say that isn't part of it, but it is part of it. Like it's now all part of like the whole story of the video. And now whenever you talk about this song, you're like, oh yeah, at the end we basically one-shotted it, did all this stuff, and then at the end the car lit on fire. So you're just like, we totally planned that, absolutely. But it's like that kind of spontaneity, which I guess fire is spontaneity. Yeah, when you're talking about those things, it's like
Sure.
it adds so much more to like kind of the ethos of everything. And years down the line, and like even days down the line, people are just like, oh man, what went into that? And then they see the final product, they see what you guys are putting out, and it's just, the song itself is a banger too. And that's one thing about you guys which I really admire too, is the sound that you bring on all the songs that I've picked up from you guys. Because as someone that writes entrance themes and someone who is a child of like more what I would call like the modern metal, like death metal and, you know, all those things, and going to jazz and all this, and then being a composer, it's like, you know, for me, whenever I hear somebody that has what I would say is like that real authentic rock and roll style, to me, it's something that I always really appreciate. And it's always something that you could tell is real. It's something you could tell comes from the heart, no matter what you're doing, no matter what the lyrics are. And, you know, I think that's with the X Bombers, you really feel that, whether it's on themes, whether it's a Jim Cornette song, whether it's on this one, or throughout the catalog. And I mean, you guys have been doing this since 2000. So you've had time to really refine that sound, to have the ability to be like, hey, this is the vibe that we're going for. And the fact that you guys record everything analog, you know, your boy can record analog over here on the other side of the screen here. But for a lot of the work that I do, everything has been digital. I don't know if that's pulling the wool back too far to my listeners and viewers here, but you know, that is a lot of the times what you see, especially with us entrance theme composers. You plug in, sometimes someone's like, hey, we got a show at 6, can you record this at 5 and send it over at 5:30? And you're like, what are we doing?
Oh,
You're
wow.
crazy. Yeah, it happens. But like, you know, the fact that you do hear the difference a lot of the times between recording analog, even then bringing it to digital and just kind of going right in. And you know, I feel like that really comes through on the recordings that you guys do.
Thank you. So one of the things that's maybe different than us and other people who write is that we're a working band, and that's what we do. 70 to 80 live dates a year. We envy Ric Flair being the 60-minute man. I mean, we do a lot of 3-hour shows. So like we got good at playing in
Yeah.
front of people, knowing what works, seeing like the physical solicitations of like things where you play something, you can see if it's working or if it's not. So like a lot of what you hear like gets worked out, you know, in front of an audience, and you figure it out over dates. And if you're a live band, that's just kind of where we come from. And, you know, we can do studio, but I think we excel at live, right? Like we just have that energy to it.
I think our studio stuff is very live. I mean, we literally don't track separately. We
Yeah.
do it together.
Yeah.
And if we could cut vocals at the same time, I think we would. We just really, there's too much bleed when you do that. So
Well, she's the drummer and singer too. So
So-
every drum beat you hear and everything is her playing it. There's not one overdub or anything in there. Like that's exactly how it happened in the room that time. Is like 8-string bass and drums. There's nothing else going on it. And so that's maybe a piece of it. So, you know, as musicians, we kind of see, oh, what's the person I'm talking to up to? I'm like, yeah, you're an orchestra, and I'm a person with like a tom, right? But like that's really cool too, because we're writing from, as you said, a rock and roll perspective. We're writing from 60s bubblegum pop, 70s punk rock, where it's like these catchy sorts of rhythmic sorts of things. When something hits, and we're thinking in terms of like percussion, movement, that sort of thing. And you know, and then the main melody, of course, is going to be like the vocal, but the rest of it is like everybody else can write melodic. We end up writing like a bowling ball. If you listen to our stuff, it's actually mixed to mono. There's no stereo mix. It is straight ahead. You listen to that thing on one speaker, it's just going to hit you. And I think that's the interesting thing, is that we're just writing from just a unique perspective, and that the wrestling world and people and themes in general have said, like, no, you do your thing. I'm like, oh, fantastic. I like our thing.
But that's the thing too, is you're saying that it's like a foreign concept right now. It wouldn't have been foreign 30, 40 years ago. It wouldn't have even been foreign 25 years ago. But I think now, with the way the music industry goes, where it's kind of like you got to start putting out this music, and then you have a whole industry that's not even just based about the art side, but kind of what I call the difference between like art music and work music. It's just like, all right, cool. We have to go ahead and put out the music that has to fit this scene, fit whatever it is, and sometimes you can lose a little bit of the artistry, which I feel you guys don't. And that's really a testament to what you guys do. And the other thing too is, when you guys are recording and writing the music the way that you are, what people hear live is pretty darn close to what you hear on the records too. I think that's a bit of a lost art now too. And, don't get it twisted. You can do backing tracks, you can do whatever the case may be for like bigger productions. I'm looking at you, people that use 50-piece orchestras, and I see 6 of you on stage. I know what you do. I've done it before. But, it's one of these things where like you guys come on stage and you have this just raucous sound. It's this live sound, and people that know you and people that are finding out about you, if they're listening to the records, they're listening to this song, they're listening to, the fleet of songs that you guys have put out, they're getting that same experience live. And I think that's really unique to a lot of the music nowadays.
Thank you. We actually try to point that out in the live show, where we will call attention to the fact that like Nance doesn't have any pedals, just plugged directly into an amp. And I don't even play with toms. So there's no trickery anywhere. I mean, sometimes I wish there was.
Real quick on that. So how did that come to be? Because even like for me, I play a decent level of drums, and I love drums. I think they're great. I'm looking across at an electric kit that I have here, and I see 1, 2, 3 toms, and I'm going, I don't know how I would function without toms. So tell me about that decision to go, you know what? I'm going to go sit behind the kit and take a bunch of these things off.
Are you kidding?
Didn't fit in the car.
If you had
live
to,
band.
Yeah, if you had to move and travel with a giant kit like over and over, I swear you'd cut your toms too. You'd be like, no, not hauling these everywhere. I'm not doing it.
Keep in mind, every show is you move that drum 4 times.
Yeah.
From your space to the vehicle, from the vehicle to the venue, from the venue to the vehicle, from the vehicle back to the space.
Yeah.
So
So I'm lazy and I don't want to move those toms every single day.
I remember the earliest days of this band. You looked at a bunch of other people with big kits, and you're just like, I would like
true. It's true.
like to just pare this down.
It's also because I was not any good at it. And I looked at those people and I said, I'm never going to be them. I'm never going to be as good as they are. So I have to do something totally different in order to like be okay with myself and, and be able to do it, period.
Mhm.
So that's why, really, that's the honest to God reason why.
But you know what, too? I'm giving you a hard time over it now, but when musicians do things like that, like even we'll talk about the 8-string bass here in a second, but we think of little things like, oh, okay, cool, you don't play with toms. Now that makes you play a certain way. Now that helps build your sound. And so when people see and people hear you, they're like, oh man, they're only using these parts of the kit. And they may not, let's say, think about it if they're not like a musician, but they're like, oh, okay, cool. They're like, there's this sound that nobody else has. And they're like, what makes that? And when you talk to people on interviews or people see you live and they're like, oh, there's no toms here, you're basically just like, oh yeah, that makes me me, and that makes me really unique. I've also played in, bands where drummers are bringing out for a show for like 30 people, like a 15-piece drum set. And you got 5 minutes to get that drum set on and 5 minutes to get that drum set off.
Yep.
And then a show that starts at 10 and is supposed to end at 12, ends at 3 because the drummers can't get their stuff off quick enough. We know those stories. We know how that happens. I'm also not dogging on those
If they take
drummers.
the cymbals off the stands on stage, that is a punishable offense.
Cardinal sin.
Cardinal sin of playing live.
That's a no-no.
That's one of those things where you just tell like the first drummer, you put your drum set on, and then everybody else uses that drum set. And then that drummer's going to be like, yeah, how about you bring on like a 3-piece, and then we'll do that. That'll be just a 3-piece. We don't need these 15 toms. We're fine. We're good. So you mentioned your drum set. You mentioned how you don't have toms on it. And then you brought it up before, my friend, about your 8-string bass.
Yeah.
I play 6-string and 7-string guitars. I like 8 strings because it's laid out in a certain way. But even students are like, should I do an 8-string? I'm like, I don't know. 8 strings are crazy. But with an 8-string bass, it's doubled. Like each string
Yeah.
is doubled.
Yeah.
So definitely go ahead. I'd love for you to show us that if you have that around.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing: we're on ropes and riffs. So we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk music. We're gonna talk wrestling. So I brought it. So it's a Hagstrom 8-string bass. So if you could see on top, it's
That
octave
is so
like a
cool.
12-string guitar, but it's still EADG, right? So it's so it's still riffing. But the thing is, if you're playing just the root note, versus the chorus of it, you get all the highs and stuff. You get all the highs, and it's like for riffing. So like when she started not playing with toms, I don't think it was like a conscious decision, but every other two piece in the world is guitar and drums. Like they go, oh, guitar and drums, guitar and drums. And we tried that for one practice. And I'm like, I hate this. I can't riff. Because you can't play a guitar alone, because we always say that music needs ass. Ass is this thing that makes you move and it makes you feel rooted to the ground. And if you're riffing on bass, I think, we talk influence, like, how can you not talk about Geezer Butler, right? Like, Geezer Butler has ass when it comes to a bass line. It's just, he digs in. And Geezer's the guy who taught us all to anchor with our pinky when we're playing, right? You
Yep.
start off, you anchor with your index finger, you anchor with your pinky, you can get that, and then all of a sudden you're off and rolling. But that was the case, is that I didn't like the lack of lows, and then I didn't want to use like a whole lot of pedals. It doesn't sound right. And then my uncle actually told me, he was like, because I came from playing 12-string guitar, and so he was like, they made an 8-string bass. I'm like, shut up. So, I had a pile of other stuff that I had to go and sell to figure out how to get one, because they only made a couple hundred of these in the 60s. And they're not a popular instrument because they are terrible if you're in a full band, because they just take up way too much space. They take up the treble. They don't really do like bass well either. It's not like you want that like pounding Thunderbird or P bass or
Right.
Guild B301 or something. It like takes up its own weird space that's like a little bit higher on the bass and a whole lot of treble, but not as much to be able to hit guitar. It's a weird instrument. And like, I think that's the thing, is that that it just became unique, that I started hearing songs that way, because you could riff on it, and you could hear, and you played differently, and you end up playing bass and rhythm guitar at the same time. So if you listen to our songs, that's what's going on. And there's no toms, because toms would be competing with about the sonic space of the 8-string bass. So like, we didn't know that at the time.
It was like a happy accident.
Exactly.
But like you touched on something there too, and I think with the 8-string bass too, you kind of get the best of both worlds in a way, especially if you're somebody who's writing and somebody who, dare I say, is kind of coming from a bit of a guitaristic mind on it, but at the same time you're getting that low end too, because then you're kind of approaching the instrument in such a way where you're using it to make rhythms, you're using it to groove, though also like a bass. So it probably changes a little bit of the way that you play and makes you a little bit more composer-esque than you would normally be on guitar, but a little bit more melodic than you might be on, a bass, for example. And it's interesting that you are using that, because, you're talking about this 8-string bass. There's a band that I love called This Town Needs Guns, TTNG for short. And when you see them live, I'm pretty sure they're still doing it now, but they use a bass that's just a 6-string guitar tuned down a complete octave. And I forget what you call that, but it's literally the same thing, right? It's just a guitar in standard, but they call it, like, they don't call it a bass guitar, but they call it something like that. But like, it's basically a 6-string with the bass, with all bass strings, EADGBE, and it's really cool. And for me, it starts to show you like, okay, cool. Like, we're in this time where you don't just have to do guitar. You don't just have to do bass. There's all these different ways. And for you, instead of having to throw like an octave pedal on it and then just go all the way down, you're like, that sounds digital. We got this, and it works for the sound that we're doing. And again, it gives like that loud, raucous sound. It can do what you need to, but it really fits the sound that you guys are going for. And it's
the
cool that it's been
interplay
like,
too
yeah.
between the octave and the main. So it creates all these wild overtones. So like an octave pedal says, oh, you are this is the exact equivalent of this.
Right. Yeah.
The way
You're going
it
just down the
shakes
octave
and,
or up the octave.
they
Yeah.
interplay, and there's harmonics and stuff. So the analog way of doing something is always the bigger pain, but always the more like unique, interesting, like intriguing. I mean, I think when we write songs and we play, our goal is to take you on a trip somewhere, but also like to make it exciting, where you're just like, I haven't heard this before. I haven't done this thing before. So, that kind of leads to that as well.
And talking about exciting stuff, you guys have a theme that you did. Talking about exciting, you guys have a theme that you did for Jeremiah Plunkett in NWA, which is, as the name implies, a wicked bad song. I just used the bad from the title of it, but you guys know. Talk to us a little bit about that theme, because that hits hard too. And again, like we're talking about in the world of entrance themes, if you look at all the different companies, there's a lot of themes which are kind of like, okay, they're a theme. They're a theme that does a thing. But when we think of really great entrance themes in wrestling, we think about something that's a bit unique towards the character and really identifies them. And with Jeremiah Plunkett's theme, definitely think you guys nailed that. Walk through us a little bit onto how that came to be.
So we met Jeremiah. He was actually one of the people who was in our Get the Experience music shoot. So he was one of the dudes in the hood. And what was cool is that like we knew who he was before he reached out. I'm like, I know exactly who you are. And so, I mean, I would say that over the course of working with him, we kind of got to become friends too. So we kind of got to know him a little bit. So we're inspired by people. Like if we meet somebody and we kind of get to know them, we're like, okay, I kind of see who you are. And Jeremiah Plunkett is the nicest guy in the world who I would not ever, ever want to mess with.
That's how it is with all wrestlers, by the way. I've said this on multiple shows. I've said this for years. I'm like, dude, some of the nicest people I've worked with in the world on projects are wrestlers. And like, there's this one girl I always bring up, this girl, Masha Slamovich. She's in TNA now. She's just unbelievable. And her move set is just like she hurts in all of the right ways. And I always say, I'm like, we came up with this really heavy theme, but talking to her, I don't mean to burst Masha's bubble, one of the nicest people in the world, man. And that's always how it is. Please, thank you, everything. Oh my gosh, you're so nice. And I'm just like, dude, this is so cool. So it's good to hear that he's also the same way on the other side of the camera.
When pro wrestlers will go to the end of the earth for you. Like, Kitty, how badly did you hit them with like stuff that day?
Well, you're doing a million takes of something. And that was a one take. So we had to do the whole thing over and over. So but everybody was so professional and accommodating and just really worked with us.
Well,
so.
our whole thing was like, we're like, man, this is a legitimate concrete floor. Don't fall on it. And they're like, we know no other way. And that's the thing actually that this is my like pet peeve. It's a pure wrestling pet peeve, is that like when places don't, like, these people give their bodies entirely on these things. I mean, the way that they go and the way that wrestlers who love that craft are willing to walk through a wall for you. Our thought is always you just have to like put them in the best position for success and to look their best and the safest sort of thing that gets the most out of something. And so with Jeremiah, it was like a long-term sort of thing where we did that and we talked and he helped like promote the video and he wore like one of our shirts at like a bull rope match he was doing. I mean, like it was like a long-term sort of thing. And, he brought up something. We do an annual award show called the Bommy Awards, recognizing excellence in excellence. And so he mentioned something about doing a theme. And I was like, I got an idea that I've kind of been working on for it. And so, we went from probably our last record, New Love Is Easy, from this like more kind of psychedelic jazz background to just one day we put on a few years ago. It was a like bad classic rock record comp. And it was like Foreigner and Foghat and all. And like we had this guttural feeling to it, right?
Yeah, you just said bad. It's not bad. It's amazing. It just has all the best, like, kind of classic rock. And I don't know. It's something in our little brains broke. And we were like, this is what we want to do. We want to make this kind of music.
That feeling.
Yeah.
And if we grew up at WC, like we were both in WCW houses. We loved World Championship Wrestling. WCW went away in late 1999, and you're like, we went out of business in 2001. I'm like, no, my WCW left in October 1999. But like all those themes, right? All those Jimmy Hart themes, like the idea that an angle could get over because of music. 3 count. How brilliant is that? Everyone hated boy bands. They go out there and they dance. Right? Disco Inferno. Glenn Gilberti is a talented wrestler, but he never would have gotten over like that if everybody didn't hear Disco Fever. Yeah. And like Surfer Sting, A Man Called Sting. There's, he comes out.
You kidding me? I still sing that one. I love that one.
I think
we all do. We all do. That puts us to sleep at night. And that's not to say it's a bad song. It's just how much it's on repeat, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
So back to He's a Bad, Bad Man. That was the thing, is that we wanted something that was just like this like piece of classic rock, something, something that like Judas Priest or the Scorpions or Brownsville Station would be doing. We're like in that mindset these days, but we wanted it to be this thing that like is exciting to hear in person too. So when he comes out, you want it that speed where he kind of walks out that way, and Jeremiah, like legitimately, like I ran into him on one take of the Experience video, like because if you watch it, you should. It's 96 seconds. It's wonderful. I have to smear him with this 8-string guitar.
Yep,
With
I
this
saw
8-string
that.
bass, and on one take, I took a step too far, and it's like I ran into a cement wall, 100-year-old oak tree, and, like, it was all my fault. It's like, he felt so bad, I'm just like, You feel bad for not moving." And so, just to kinda get that, like, where it's in his mind, and I think that was the other thing too, is that, like, we wanted to give him a gift. Anybody we write a theme song for, we wanna give them a gift, and, like, we wanted to say, like, "No, we see you this way. Like, you are this thing," because people are like, "Oh, it's Plunky." And in my head, I'm like, people should be calling him Mr. Plunkett.
Right.
Only, like, because he's like, like, he's the Arn Anderson of our day, is he just goes ahead and he's a beast, and he just we just want it to be where it's just everybody else has like these kind of like other themes that are like that, but we want to slow burn. But then we ended up putting the hook in the beginning of it. We're like, let's start it with the chorus. Let's jumpstart it and start it hot so you know what's going on. And then the story that we wanted to tell was all these sorts of situations. And us, we're not a trusting pair. So any song that we write, we want to be able to record live. We want to be able to play it live at shows, tell people about it. Every theme song that we've done is part of our live set. We tell everybody who's there who this person is. We always make a joke. It's like, oh, we're in Darien, Illinois tonight. Go ahead and follow at Plunkitis so you confuse him, And so our friends are our friends for a long time, but also like we wanted to do a song that we loved, so we didn't necessarily totally trust that he would use it because it's wrestling. And so we wanted to write a song that was like kind of two levels. And so lyrically, it's like part Bad Leroy Brown and Codeine by the Charlatans. It's about this like bad influence that's going on that you don't want to mess with in any kind of way. And so we thought that instead of writing about a very specific person, we would use pieces of Jeremiah to kind of inform this holistic sort of thing. So then he would see himself again in it as well. But, and then there's like little sprinklings of like wrestling things in there. Like if he shoots, he doesn't miss, right? So like if, don't mess with him in the ring or else, you know what I mean? You're going to wind up on the bad side of a hold. Right. And then, his sugar hold is never sweet. So it sounds like drugs, which it partially could be. But sugar hold, of course, is made famous by Bob Roop. And then, he would use it in some of his matches. So, like, it's these 2-layer sorts of things because we think if you write a theme song that's just all about like wrestling, like, oh, he's going to slam you through this table and do this and that. It's like,
Well, then you get Pile Driver. That's basically what you get at that point. Which Pile Driver was great, but that was so on the nose. Like it's got to be like, and I agree with you on that too, because as I've done a lot more entrance themes over time, I've kind of gotten to the point where originally I was like, I'm not a fan of lyrics in songs because it gets in the way of commentary and things like that. But over the years, I've become like somebody who really sees the value in the lyrics. And for me, one of the things I specifically don't do a lot is vocals. So for me, writing lyrics is always a little bit like, okay, it's a little more challenging, I think, than playing drums or doing guitar or doing the comp side of it. And I'm just like, okay, so how do I get there? But there have been a couple of themes I've done recently where I've taken the same exact approach as you guys did, where it's kind of multi-purpose. Like if you know who the talent is and you're in the wrestling ecosystem, then it really amplifies that talent that much more and it really connects and resonates with them. But if you're not in the wrestling bubble, you can still resonate with that song. There's a song I just did with a friend of mine, Alex, for a wrestler named Layla Hirsch, and it tells
legit Layla Hirsch.
Legit Layla Hirsch, absolutely. And she has this amazing story. But like one of these things I've asked over the years to Jim Johnston was, you talk about a wrestler like The Undertaker. Yeah, you can write something spooky and creepy and dirgy for someone who is obviously dead. But what do you do for somebody who's just like a really good wrestler? And I remember he was saying, he goes, everyone has a story. And so what is that person's story, right? You think of Cody Rhodes' theme, and that theme, if you really know all of his like backstory and all, you see the things in the theme, you're like, wow, that's layers. But if you just like the song Kingdom, you can like Kingdom. If you listen to Layla Hirsch's theme, it's just this story about proving that you are the baddest person and proving that no matter what, you're overcoming everybody's expectations. But if you know Layla Hirsch, you hear all these little tie downs to like, oh, okay, cool. This is a reference to, you know, where she came from. This is a reference to how people perceive her. This is what she's going to do if given the opportunity to throw hands with you, you know, all of those things. So it's like the fact that you have these beat points about Jeremiah and you're just like, it can work for him and amplify his character and like exemplify that. But also, if you don't know who he is, you can still get something out of this song. I think that's a real testament to it.
Well, it ended up, that song ended up getting played on 400 different radio stations. So it hit 48 on the Radio Indie Alliance charts, which was
That's
wonderful,
awesome.
right? And so like we always are going to write a song that like does two things. Like number one, we want to like it has to stand alone. Like it's like that's the thing is it has to be if you don't care about wrestling one bit, it's got to stand alone. And then two, like if we take the challenge of like writing a song and listen, we're an acquired sort of taste for this thing, right? Like it's different. It's retro. It's that 60s, 70s, 80s kind of like rock, punk, glam, glitter, all this sort of stuff rolled in there. Our goal is like we're like it's the Jimmy Hart school of songwriting. It's like, man, we are going to get you over. Like this song, if you can play it enough, like it's gonna like and so that's why then like we're in talks with a few people to write things too, but like until I've got a take and until I'm confident I can play it at our live shows, and by the way I'm gonna get it over at our live show too, and then if it does
'Cause
that
that's how I find out what works and what doesn't, you know.
with an audience.
But yeah, if I can play it at one of my shows where people have no idea, you know, who this person is, this wrestler is, and I can get people to like it, then I know, great, I can now give it to this wrestler and say, like, use it because this is good.
And I should also be able to see the song in my head, like where it would play. And so like when I got a hold of Jeremiah, Jeremiah and I were talking about this, we have the longest text chain in the world. I apologize. Like we must be friends because anybody else would have killed me by now when we come back with like 18,000 ideas for him. Like, you know, I was like, man, this is Jim Crockett, 1986. Like this dude is coming out and seeing this, but it's also like I can see it in the nastiest parts of a city walking around like we did with the video for He's a Bad, Bad Man. And so it's just visual. So if I can see the moment that like that I'd be seeing it for like a music video and then like how that wrestler would be seeing it, or you know we've written things for like book series like the 24/7 Demon Mart and Gates of Divinity. If I can see that in action where it's like the outcome of what that would be visually, so if I can see our music visually, I know we're onto a good track.
I love that. And so you have this song for Jeremiah that he's been crushing it to. He's in NWA. You guys are putting it out. You guys are doing all this stuff for it. But before that, you guys had something that you did for Jim Cornette.
Yes.
Which that song is awesome. And that's where when I was watching like the ending video, we were like, oh, okay, cool. Here's the omnibus version of him bringing it up on the show.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
wild.
you basically just like keep telling him that you want it to be the theme, and you kept doing the stuff against the cardboard. I was like, I love that. So that song is awesome too, and it's gotten play on Jim Cornette's show, and I love the vibe of that too. Again, just very rock and roll. That one is a lot more, I think in terms of that one's a lot more fun. That one is a little bit more on the nose, you know, but intentionally, right? Like you guys are making that decision to make it more on the nose. So when you're writing that theme, tell us a little bit as to how that comes to be and the reception from Jim and the fans.
Well, one last thing about Jeremiah before we move on
Yeah,
to
go ahead.
is that like he's using it in National Wrestling Alliance, which is amazing. And that video actually went across Billy Corgan's desk, and so they talked about actually doing something with it on TV. But I think it got caught in production hiatus because they're on a weird schedule. But he started, so Jeremiah's working as a heel in all these places, and like even despite that, the crowd is singing it at him. And so I'm like, that's exactly what you want.
Yep.
For like, I mean, we were heading back from Wisconsin, right?
So the funny thing about the Jim Cornette theme is that people think that it's like a work, It's not. Like, people think that we knew Brian last or something and that he just, like, was like, oh, do this or whatever. I'm like,
Weren't we?
no, no, we legitimately listen to the show. We drive, obviously. We spend a lot of time in the car.
Yeah, that's our show.
And there was an episode where at the very end of the drive-through, they were like, hey, we need a theme song. We need a new theme song.
This has been going on. I think Brian was like, this has been going on too long. Somebody send in like
Yeah.
this thing. And it's 2 a.m.
It's 2 a.m, and we're tired. And then I think we just turned to each other and we're like, we're a band. We can write a theme song for Jim Cornette. Why not? Like, let's just try it. Let's just do it.
And we knew it. And so like the approach of it's kind of funny. We had about a 3-day window between like dates when we can get in a studio and writing it and everything. So she's like, this isn't going to happen with it, is it? And so my rule is that if I have an engaging opening line to the song, it's going to happen. And so we're like, again, it's like, if I can hook you right from the beginning. So like the midnight and the rock and roll, right? And so it's like, if you listen to Jim Cornette at all, he refers to the Midnight Express as the midnight and the Rock and Roll Express as the rock and roll, but it also kind of sounds like midnight rock and roll. That's interesting. But it's like, what greater struggle has there been in pro wrestling history than the dastardly Midnight Express using things like karate illegally? Versus the Rock and Roll Express. I mean, like, nobody suffers like, nobody suffers like Ricky Morton, right? So it's back and forth. And so, I think we knew what it could be, but then we wanted to build in all the things we loved about WCW themes and glam rock. Like, there's a whole lot of like Sweet and the Queen in there and stuff like that. But also, it sounds weird, but we wanted to write something. We don't believe that Jim is totally done making appearances. So we didn't just want it to be podcasting. We wanted him to be able to come out to it. But we also kind of wanted it to almost have like a heroic vibe to it. Like, so when it hits like that, like, it's just, I mean, the Jim Cornette part's just DCE, right? It's like,
right.
There's nothing to it because it just hits that way. And, so it hits, so it physically does it. So we'll know somebody watches the show if we start playing it and they turn their head at a show, and they karate punch to the Jim Corn. But we wanted it to be like a heroic entrance, like a superhero sort of thing. So he's up there and everybody like shouts it and is into it. And the other piece we really wanted too is we wanted to throw, it takes you on a trip, right? Like, it's an 83-second song with like low verse, chorus, high verse, go, chorus, bridge, breakdown, coda out, right? Like, and so like, it's a lot in a little, but you don't recognize it's going on because it takes you for that trip.
Right.
And I think that was like a big thing about it too. And then like also lyrically, so we have a couple of hate threads devoted to us on Reddit that we took away people's like parody themes.
First of all, I love that so many people can have such a strong opinion about like people they've never met. I'm sure that you know what I mean, because I'm sure.
Welcome to music and wrestling,
yeah,
baby.
I'm gonna say I am sure that you have your own haters.
Listen, I think the Brian Myers theme is a banger, but there's probably others who are like, bring back your indie theme from 2008.
And that was Hinder. And I'm like, I'm never going to bash that song, but listen to this one. This one's great.
Yeah, and they're a little bit, and so like, obviously like everyone knows it's corny and James, they're super
They're
fun
great.
songs.
They're super fun parodies.
So was
But
No
they're
One Is a Nice Guy.
Right.
Well, and also like, if you think about it too, we wanted to write something, like we didn't want to write songs about two things lyrically. One, we didn't want to use it to bash other people.
No.
Right? Like, and then two, we didn't want to talk about all the stuff that he did. Like, we wanted to talk about the reasons why we like Jim Cornette now. Like, it's true. Like the line in the Brit, he's never fake or phony. He never backs down from a fight. And those are things like when he's talking about wrestling he hates, right? It's like this fake, phony sort of thing, right?
But even watch him on X, watch him going after everybody, however he goes about it, whether it's wrestling, politics, whatever. He's himself, no matter what. You know what you're getting with him. He's authentic to himself.
And we've worked with people. Jack Doan was the referee in our music video for that. So he worked with Jim for years when he was there with managing Bulldog and Yoko and all sorts of things on creative. And like, the more people we met who have worked with Jim, they're just like, he has the most respect for these people for this industry, loyal, and he just wants the best for everybody that's involved. And he's opinionated, but his opinions are based in stuff. And that was the biggest thing is, we go around and there'll be somebody who like, listen, we'll admit we watch AEW as well.
Sure.
Because we want it to work so bad. Again, we're a WCW house, and we're just like Tony fixes, please. Somehow Tony Schiavone has something to do with it, right?
Yeah.
But like we go around and people are like, "Oh, geez, I can't believe you like that guy," or whatever. It's like, no, like that. I mean, we put it out on our fan club 7-inch too, and like just to say what people Brian Last and Jim Cornette are, they both bought it. They could have asked us for it for free. Like we sent it to their house. Jim bought an extra T-shirt with like an X-Bombers T-shirt.
I think that just reveals a lot about their character. They didn't have to do that.
Right.
We would have happily given them,
And
copies.
and people complain on like threads where they're like, bring back the old themes, and like they don't blink. I think part of it is that they just genuinely, I mean, they're both music people. That's the other thing. You go on the Arcadian Vanguard channel 15 years ago, Brian Last is like filming bands in New York City, and they're all the bands he likes, and he's trying to like book shows of it. And obviously, like Jim, if you watched as he booked in Smoky Mountain and OVW, music was such a huge piece of that for him. So like, we're not often looking to do things, but we're just like, all right, we're music people, they're music people. I think this can work. And that's why if somebody's like, oh, geez, that Jim Cornette guy, we're like you do not know him. Like, not like we're like friends with them or whatever, but like when you work with somebody on something like that, it tells you who they are.
Yeah, and he's always somebody that I've wanted to have on the show because there was one show that I was listening to of his, and he has thousands of shows, so I'm not going to sit here and hit you with a timestamp or an episode, but I remember that he had said something, and it was around the time about a year that I started getting into doing the entrance themes, and he was just like, years ago we used to not even have entrance themes, and I was like, that's interesting. And then I think he had said that then they started with not doing like custom entrance themes, but it was like music that people knew.
Like Freebird for the Freebirds.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was like, that's really interesting too. And the narrative behind that was, if you were going to give somebody a piece of music when they came out, number one, you were sold on them immediately. And just having music told people that you need to care more about this person than the others. But then over time, they saw how good it was. And then they were like, well, let's use music that's on the radio because people know it and they'll associate it with it. And it was interesting to me because like, I'm 36, and for me, my first wrestling match that got me into wrestling was Bret and Shawn Iron Man match at WrestleMania 12. And so like that's more of like a timestamp there, right? And it's like, for me, everything else is historic. I didn't see in real time Hulk slam Andre. You know what I mean? I didn't see the Freebirds in their time. I didn't see Killer Kowalski, obviously, in his time. So for me, it's like learning about how the industry was, and like now the industry that we sit in, like you guys, me, we're in this industry where everything is like a TV production, right? And like every single character has a theme, even if they're only on like 2 times a year or something like that. Everybody's got to have a theme. Every show has to have a theme. Every pay-per-view has to have a theme, whether it's like licensed music or not. And you're just like, it's so different than how it used to be. So for me, I'd love to even have him on the show and just be like, look, obviously you're using the stuff with X-Bombers and it's awesome, but like these are conversations where it's like you've been in the industry so long to where how it was without music to get people over and amplify a character. I'd just love to have a conversation on that dynamic in real time. Because that's the other side of the themes, right? What happens if someone doesn't have one? You see, in NWA, the early part during COVID and whatnot, they started to not use the entrance themes again. Tommaso Ciampa, Tommaso Ciampa early on when he turned heel in NXT, he just came out to booze, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. Don't have him have music. My thing has always been like the Jericho thing in 2008. Why would you have merch if I don't want you to like me, right? Yeah. And it's like, it's that kind of thing. And you see like when someone doesn't have music or music isn't a factor, it's like, not only what does music do if you have it, but what does it do if it's not there in modern wrestling? And so that'd be an interesting conversation to have. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be that silence that kind of goes with it. And I think the other thing is at some point with kind of modern music when it comes to this stuff is they just find a bed, they go with it. I think like it just there must be Wrestling is an art form. I mean, I always say this, and so do you know who was at ringside at WrestleMania 1 who I always cite?
Who?
Mary Tyler Moore, one of the greatest producers of television all the time. Mary Tyler Moore, what are you doing here? She's like, there is no finer theater than professional wrestling in this world. And I'm just like, Mary Tyler Moore has this right. When this thing is done correctly, that's the case. But I think the thing is that, like, ultimately we're all in this kind of like world where, if you watch, let's say, AEW, crowds don't know when to cheer or when to boo. They pop for a spot or whatever. But you watch Jeff Jarrett work a match, they all want to count the 10 punches in the corner, right? He outsmarts somebody with an arm drag, they cheer. I mean, like, I think there's these basic human things that we need to set up and then go from there. So, like, to us, if I'm looking to put over somebody as a wrestler, we got to come up with something that's like catchy, true to them, where people get excited to hear it in the moment. And if we're looking to get over like a heel where you actually like them, you need to make some terrible music for them.
Yes.
So like in AEW, they use a weird bed for Don Callis to come out. It's dissonant. It's like just a synth being
It's also very similar to what he had when he was the Jackal, like early on. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Was he using it as Cyrus the Virus too in ECW? I'm gonna guess Paul probably has something to do with everything. But like, yeah, like you hate it. You're like, this is uncomfortable. It's a brown note. Get out of here. And so it invokes that feeling. So like, if you had silence, that's cool. If you have like, but yeah, I think there's just this like layer of noise and barrage that comes at you, and I can't distinguish different themes from each other. Whereas if I go back and I watch like WCW, I'm all like, oh, man called Sting, I'm getting Steinerized, right?
It's true. I love that.
And,
Give me
and even
one.
back to your example, like, right, like I'm just a sexy boy. Oh my
Right.
God, right? Why?
It tells you everything you need to know.
It
Yes.
he's so punchable with that line. And so Bret Hart, we're Bret Hart people. We love Hitman, right? And so like you wanted Bret Hart to mess up the sexy boy just because of that theme. And he's prancing to it and he's taking off the earrings and you're just like, yeah, he thinks he's a sexy boy. Let's see what happens when he runs into the guy from the dungeon, right?
The fact that you bring up Shawn Michaels, this is a Shawn Michaels Stan podcast at some point, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we're going to go ahead and shift gears here because we're going to do 2 questions at the end. But we're going to go ahead and play a game here called Music City Rumble, where I have our guests booking musicians versus musicians. 1 singles match for men, 1 singles match for women, and 1 tag team match using only musicians in the squared circle. You are in charge of the wrestling match. So you're going to be pitting musician against musician. You get to choose the participants and who would win those matches.
And so like, not like modern day, right? So like if I want Billy Joel in there, we don't got modern day Billy Joel.
You could totally do that if you want. You could choose modern, you could choose living, you could choose dead, you could do living versus dead, but I'm assuming a dead guy or a dead woman would be a very easy opponent.
Let's pick we're going to go with people in their prime. So if I say like this is Jimmy Page, let's go ahead.
I mean, Jimmy Page in his prime. That's
Love
what you're
it.
saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to start with the singles match. Is that okay? And singles?
I don't even know if you heard all the rules.
I
You
did.
didn't let him finish.
Were there
Those
more?
were all the rules. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. His cadence suggests.
Okay.
All right. So it's the match that we all want to see. It is the Toxic Twins Explode. It's going to be Joe Perry versus Steven Tyler.
Ooh.
Right? The Toxic Twins explode. And we do an angle where Steven Tyler's love is too much for Joe Perry and Joe Perry turns on him. Right? So we're shooting a vignette in the studio, right? And they're recording an album, and at some point, Steven is trying to solicit a take from him, and he's like, "Why are you always touching me, Talrico?" And he's just like, "I'm just trying to get this out of there." And then 10-year thing, boom, Perry takes the guitar, hits Talrico in it. Talrico gets color. He's on the ground there. Aerosmith is done. And to add insult to injury, Joe decides to record that piece where the tape was rolling as a new 45 that he's handing out at all the shows, listening to Steven Tyler crying.
Wow. I think you've thought about this.
I love this. And this is great, too, because you have the recording of Steven Tyler being like, oh, in the background. Now, the question is, who goes over in this match?
Okay, here's the thing is that, man, I think I'm going to put over Joe Perry. This launches the Joe Perry project, right? So here's the thing that's on it too, is that like, cause the thing is you'd have to have Tyler work as like a chicken baby face, which is kind of weird. He'd fight from underneath. We want him to fight from underneath and do those things, but Perry's got to crush him. What do you think?
Sure, I'll take it.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
mean, I'd watch it.
And I've got Brad Whitford out there who's on Steven's side.
Ooh, in his corner. Okay.
Until the last minute where it looks like he's going to have the comeback. Big Tom Hamilton reaches in. 1, 2, 3. Now Joe Perry has a bass player for the Joe Perry project.
Wow.
Tallarico's got color again.
This whole thing is just to give Tallarico color.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
I'm saying that, right? Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
we got his daughters at ringside.
Oh,
They're crying.
Sure. Of
Right.
course.
Right.
Man.
Right. And then he leaves. And then and Joe Perry leaves the ring and plays off of Get Your Wings, You See Me Crying.
Oh my God.
I love that.
And just yeah. So we build it from here. And the assumption would be if we had a
Whew.
return based on this, it would be something where Steven had to go and get somebody else involved with it in order to do it.
So now we got our one-on-one women's match.
Okay. Women's match. I don't know who the other participant would be.
I can float one for you after this.
Oh,
by the
what's
way.
yours? Because maybe it's the same as mine.
Oh, Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, that'd be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Who do you got?
But I was thinking Chrissy Hynde from The Pretenders
Joan Jett.
because it's my understanding she was very
yeah.
like she was a lot. It's my
Mhm.
understanding she was a lot. And she
Yeah.
annoyed a lot of other women. So I don't know who her opponent would be.
Well,
but-
here's the thing. If I say Joan Jett, I've got Steel versus Steel. You don't want that.
Okay,
So, like, we all know that Joe Perry could take Steven Tyler in a fight.
maybe.
Yes.
I'm saying Chrissy
Right.
is from
But
Ohio.
totally.
She is scrappy.
So we can't have a Joan Jett because that's like,
right.
that's a good fight, but it's not a fight that you need to see.
So who do you want to see her beat up?
It's like Big Bill versus Talos,
Okay.
right? You're like, they're both tall. It's great. But then I
right.
lose something if I've got that
Give
going
it to me.
on it. You need a blonde who like is like, yeah. All right.
Okay, go.
I got a surprising. All right. Oh man, Chrissy Hynde versus Tony Basil, who did Mickey.
I don't know. I wouldn't count
No.
Tony out because she was like a gymnast or something.
Yes.
Wait, so who wins that one?
Well, hold on though. Like with WoW logic, which by the way, we are going to fully admit here, we love women of wrestling.
Me too.
It's a great show. Production is amazing. But here's what I know on this, right? Tony Basil presents as All-American Girl cheerleader. The idea when we think Chrissy Hynde is just going to hand it to her.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we're going to get classic WCW sort of. So the build in on this kind of thing is that Chrissy Hynde has just released something from the Pretenders, like Brass in Pocket. And what knocks it out of the chart?
Mickey.
She's like, oh God, Mickey knocked this out of the chart. Oh, so she starts like talking in the press and menacing. And at some point here, like it ends up being that the Pretenders were supposed to have Tony Basil open for her.
Ooh, okay.
But since Mickey's so hot, we swapped the bill. Now all of a sudden the Pretenders are. And she starts saying stuff on stage, walks backstage. Chrissy Hynde spits in Tony Basil's face right before she says right there. She's like, have Mickey wipe it off there. You do your little cheerleader chants and whatever. Me and the boys are getting out of here. Mickey stands up for herself. She gets the arms at the side and goes you can say a lot about me. You can't say anything about Mickey in this sort of
cheerleading.
sport of cheerleading and defend it.
Wow.
Right. And so we've got them in a match at this point. The only way to settle it, and the only way to figure out who opens for who on this tour, because you got to have something at stake in a match. If people are just going out there and wrestling, right? Remember, can Joe break away from Steven? Now who's going to win on this kind of like thing in order to be up on the card? And so I've got him in there. And we have classic 1980s. Heels got the advantage, runs. Face is outsmarting. So Tony Basil is doing the splits, cartwheeling out of the way.
I can see it.
It's infuriating until it's all fun and games. The crowd is laughing until Chrissy hits her with a good right hand.
Love
and
that.
just knocks her down like a heap. Right? and a little blood trickling out of the side of the mouth of Tony Basil there, reaching out to the crowd. Chrissy stomping her, saying this is how we do it in Ohio. Right. She's got eyeliner in her pocket and saying, I'm making you punk rock now, and drawing it on her face, write something terrible on her forehead, making her clap, like doing the stomp clap with her hands, got her in a hold, right? The crowd is just so, now we got the comeback coming, right? The crowd's behind Mickey, right? Let's go, Tony. Let's doing chants out. I don't know what it is. Didn't do cheerleading, so I don't know what it is, right?
Uh-huh.
Right? Cheering for her, building the sorts of things up, right? Can't keep her down, flurry. Our comeback, we put Tony over.
Love it.
Tony goes over.
I love how well thought out these are too, because this is so like, again, with these, it's not just who are we doing? It's also a matter of like, there's story here. I love this. And now you got one tag team too. This is usually with like the band versus the band, like the full band versus the full band.
All right.
So I'm gonna say who I like for character work and intrigue.
Okay.
So my one team is gonna be Soft Cell, the band who did Tainted Love.
Okay.
They are sleazy. They are British. They use machinery. There's something.
And it
there.
doesn't mean if you're British, you're sleazy. It's just they're two different things.
That's not a bug. That's a feature, John.
Yeah.
So all right. The other side of this, though, we would need like a rock and roll band.
Okay.
So like a rock and roll duo. Who do you like on this? I mean, the easy one's gonna be like the Black Keys.
A good one though.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I can see that.
So Dan and oh my God, I can't remember the drummer's name. Drummer guy. He's a producer. He does everything. I can't remember. So the entire idea here is that we've got this, and Soft Cell is now releasing all these awesome themes in wrestling. We're going to bring it all together here, right? All these people, and they're starting to get on TV because of it.
Okay.
They're starting to be heard. They're starting to be, and everything. They have all these vignettes going on it. They come out, they have machines. And so the rock and rollers are just mad. They're all like, these are instruments, man. These are instruments, and they do it. And they come out and they play a set.
Do you know what a bass guitar is?
What would it be? During the Soft Cell Sanitarium, which is their weekly sort of thing where Soft Cell is having people on with their music and interviewing people too. Okay. So everyone cools on there and kind of like blasé or whatever. And it's like height new wave, right? Everyone's like this and whatever. And in the middle of it, they have the Black Keys come out and everyone boos them, right? Everyone boos them. And you think at this point that it's going to be like the case, everyone from the blasé, but then they start going on the road with these people and they start playing entrance themes for everybody. And wouldn't you know it, rock and roll's getting over. Everybody's so sick of the machinery and that sort of thing that's going on in the past. And they go rock and roll. And so now all of a sudden they come back and do it again. And we got like a 50-50 split going on.
Now there's signs in the crowd that say machines will not replace us.
And stuff like that, right?
All right.
Signs, right? Long live rock and roll.
Okay, I get it.
Right, and so this is going on as an undercurrent. We tag them on to tie everything together here, right? So like it seems like it's going to culminate with the two of them playing the entrance rings. And wouldn't you know who they're playing to the ring? The greatest rivalry of all time. Yeah. Soft Cell plays out the Midnight Express. And wouldn't you know who plays out rock and roll, right? The Rock and Roll Express come out to the Black Keys. Right. Okay. And so here's the match and everything going on. But then like Soft Cell slinks to the side of the ring. They're going to cheat for the midnight. Okay. Right. They're out there with Jim Cornette. They get the big hug and everything that's on there too. Mark Allman's got a glittery tennis racket. Right. And who comes to the aid of them from backstage, running in with their instruments as well. Right.
To use as weapons.
Smeared with the bass guitar. Right. That's on there. Corny takes the bump because he gets backsided, by the way. We never want to have somebody see it coming, right? Like they hit him from behind and then, and then they slide a cymbal into the ring.
Love it.
Right. That
people don't do that more.
That's the finish,
especially when they have people playing live, right? Yeah.
A bloodied Ricky Morton takes the cymbal, looks up, right? Hits Sweet Stanley right in the eye. He runs over. 1, 2, 3, roll up, we're out.
Wow.
But at this point, Jim Cornette is managing Soft Cell and says, my boys can take it in this thing.
We've really gone on a ride here.
Oh, this is easy. The idea is that you want to tell the story that never ends with everything. So we could keep this going indefinitely and bring people in, take them out. So then the next thing we've got a match here where it's like loser leaves the territory. The song will never be played, never be replaced
Never
again.
writes again.
Never like if your champion was using a Black Keys song, it's out now. They got to find something new. And by the way, furthermore, anybody who was using a Black Keys song now has to use a Soft Cell song as their entrance.
Oh
And
man, and
anybody
they
who's
can't do a
using a
cover
Soft
version.
Cell
It has to
song-
be a brand new song.
Exactly. All right. So what we got to do, because we've got people in here who cannot work in any ways whatsoever. So what do we got all surrounding the ring so no one can escape? All the wrestlers using the themes. They've got a lumberjack match out of this, right? Back and forth, right? Soft Cell is just doing the most cheating things possible. They are cheating in every human possible way that's going on. We've got powder, we've got fire, we've got just like other things where they cue the light man to blind him in the eyes with the same sort of thing. We've got everything we could possibly have because Soft Cell ain't winning a fair fight here.
I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say.
Right. And then when things look worse at the same sort of thing, right? The biggest rock and roller at ringside who's super pumped, right? They've been the biggest supporter of the Black Keys, right? Like says, yeah, let's get them. Cold cocks one of the Black Keys, reveals the most new wave sort of space age shirt at the same sort of thing, and says, long live synth, baby, right? 1, 2, 3.
And then
sorry,
for the
Black
next
Keys.
2 years, 3 years, it's nothing but synthwave and nothing but new wave. And
But can
anything
you
with that franchise.
imagine what happens when this punk rock duo called the X Bombers comes into the territory?
You just booked yourself into this fictitious
That
thing.
was
I
the point
did.
of this whole
And
thing.
it's-
How do we
and it-
get the X Bombers in here?
Exactly, because we write Cornette off for a bit, but then
boy.
Cornette comes back with our theme, and we go, what?
Wow. You know, it's a real shame that I don't have a time machine that I can't make this happen.
Can you... All right, you imagine what I've done here?
Yeah.
You imagine what I could do for AEW?
Yeah,
I
I
love
could
that.
admit.
Hour and a half, man. I will make
Yeah.
you a month and a half of TV.
And all music centric too. That's the beauty of it. Well, thank you to the both of you for making the time to come on Ropes and Riffs today. This was
Absolutely.
awesome. I love having a conversation with you about your music and wrestlers as we always do. And I hope to have you back on coming up as well.
Yeah, we'd love that. We've got some exciting kind of projects going on for a couple of wrestlers too that we don't like to talk about them until they're like concrete and they're
Yes.
using them.
Yeah.
Because
First
that's
rule
all
of writing for wrestlers is you don't talk about writing for wrestlers.
That's true. John, we appreciate it. It's the merging of our two worlds.
Yeah.
So when we saw that this show was in existence, we're all like, "Oh, this is fantastic. This is our people." And so we're a very small group of people who write in this arena. So like, I'm so glad we got to do this.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.